Okay, so let's talk about how you tell the difference between chi-squared goodness of fit versus chi-squared test of homogeneity and independence. So this is the last page of your notes that we had begun yesterday. And so it has a whole slew of scenarios, and then we're going to practice telling the difference between them all. Well, you're going to practice. Check. All right. So first, let's discuss chi-squared goodness of fit. Chi-squared goodness of fit is the key is that you are comparing categories of one variable. You only have one variable and multiple categories. For example, type of candy. Okay, so you would just have one list of the different types of candies. That's why we would put it just in list. And so we would have, Three Musketeers, Snickers, Tootsie Rolls, whatever. So we have only one variable, and it's the type of candy with 4 different categories for the 4 different types of candy. All right. So the ones that we learned yesterday are the chi-squared test of homogeneity and independence. And those are computed in the exact same way. Okay, so these are computed identically. And the only reason you call one of them homogeneity and one of them independence is because the way the question is worded. If the question asks you if the groups are the same, then you would call it chi-squared test of homogeneity. If the question is wondering if there is a relationship or if there is an association, so if they are related, if they are somehow, if one affects the other, if there's an association, then we're wondering if those two things are independent of each other. And when I say those two things, we have 2 variables with categories. Okay, we have 2 variables with categories. For example, on last night's homework, we had the Titanic, and what were our 2 variables? Okay, good. Basically, your health status. Okay, your health status, whether you were dead or alive, versus what else? Good. The class of ticket that you had, the way you were, whether you first class, second class, third class, crew. All right. And so, see, there's 2 variables. You got dead and alive, and then you have first, second, third, and crew. So, a variable across the top and a variable across the side.
So that's independent.
So then this one was, of course, a chi-squared test, and then depending on the way they worded it, if their question was, are the classes surviving, there we go, at the same rate? Okay, if it was asked that way, are they surviving at the same rate? Then I would say this is a chi-squared test of homogeneity. So that's how you say that, homogeneity. But if the question was worded, is your survival rate affected by your classification? Okay? Then you would call it a chi-squared test of independence. Are they going to come with the identical conclusion? Are they going to come out identical? Yes. They are computed the same way. They come to the same conclusion, essentially. It's just kind of the way you say it.
Is that like on like a test or something? You have to say which one.
Yes, you need to say which one. Now,
Even on
am
the
I
AP
going
test?
to, yes, on the AP test also. So on the test, you always want to tell me which one. Now, am I going to mark you off, for this component? Probably not, especially if I could see that thing both ways. All right? I mean, if you could word it differently and that kind of thing. So, but do write the entire phrase. Okay. So while I come around and stamp you for all of those 4 different things, right? Here it is. While I come around and stamp you for these 4 different things, I want you to do the problems here. Okay, I want you to work on these, and I'll give you a hint about some numbers of some things. There will be 2 problems that are actually none of these kinds of tests. Whoa, how could that happen? How could something not even qualify to be a chi-squared type of test? It's not categorical. Perfect. Yes, very good. Not categorical. If you have something that is about averages, multiple averages, then that's not categorical. That's quantitative. That would be something that we would be getting to after this course ends. That's the next step. Multiple averages is the next step, and that's kind of how they do the Moneyball theory. They use the ANOVA test and the analysis of variance, so that's next. There is going to be one chi-squared goodness of fit, and the rest of them are going to be the chi-squared homogeneity or independence. So I want to take a few minutes, come around and stamp you, and while you do that. Okay, so let's see what variables we're talking about. A, talking about Friday and Saturday nights and the preference among the chefs for entrees. Misplaced modifier here, right? Are we talking 4 chefs or are we talking 4 entrees of the chef? So anyway, but what are the variable or variables? Good, entrees. So we're talking and there's 4 categories of that versus the night of the week and the 2 that they are comparing there. So this would be chi-squared test, and then let's see how the wording of the question is to see if we would call it homogeneity or independence. And since they want to know if it has the same preference among those 4 entrees, it's probably homogeneity. Okay? Does it really matter? Did you look at it as, is the entree independent of the night? Correct. Then you would call it chi-squared test of independence. So see, it just kind of depends on how you word the question. So that's why I could support either way. Why do you need to put it? It's probably just to emphasize that it's not goodness of fit. So by putting one, either homogeneity or independence, then you're making sure it's clear that it's not the goodness of fit. All right. Question B. We have company policy, and we're talking about the particular lots that they can go into, A, B, or C. All right. So I know, okay, so, and then we are talking about, we're wondering if employees at the middle management level and above are basically, see how they're assigned to each parking lot. Okay. So question, how many variables, have multiple categories? Or how many variables are there? And I also think on this one, the question is ambiguous, and so I think you could probably take it one of 2 ways, but let's have somebody say their choice. The parking lot one and the people where they get to park. Okay, you put chi-squared test of independence. And so what were you thinking on that one? What are the variables then you were testing? the lot.
Because if it's random or not. So
Okay.
if it's an independent over random.
I don't know. That's kind of weird. Okay.
Because it doesn't have anything to do
Depends on their
it
job
doesn't depend on
class.
their job class.
Okay. Gotcha. I can go with that. Does the lot that they get into depend on their job classification? So I can say that it's which lot versus their job classification. All right, I can see that. And if that's the way that you interpreted this problem being read, then you can, because if it says middle management and above, you would probably say maybe they're talking about middle management and then upper management and then like CEOs or whatever. Okay. You know, maybe hourly, salary, and just like owners, whatever, partners. Okay. So I could see that. Then you would have maybe middle management, upper management, and then the CEOs. And here, of course, we have lot A, B, and C. So you had two variables with more than one category. Then that was the chi-squared test of independence that you said because you were wondering if they were dependent on class. All right. When I first read this, I personally took this phrase as meaning just one group. So the way I saw this problem was you got your lot A, B, and C, and all we're doing is checking middle management and up as one group. So in this case, there's only one variable, and it's which lot the people got thrown into. Because I didn't think it was clear on if mid-management level and those above them are separated. If this was the way you organized it and you thought interpreted this, it would be chi-squared goodness of fit. Because I only have one column with my various lots. Okay. Question C. Is the student's social life affected by where the student lives? We've got random sample of where they live dorm, off campus, at home, and then the amount of dates, which I guess is the one thing that they're classifying as their social life. 0, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, or 5. So what do we got? How many variables? Or variable? 2. What are they? Good. It's where the students live. So where the students live is one variable, and their social life. And their social life was categorized into 0 dates, 1 to 2 dates, 3 to 4 dates, or 5 or more. Okay, so there was how many variables or how many categories for the variable social life? 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. 4 categories for the variable of social life. Okay, and then how many categories for the housing, the living, where they live? Okay, so then there was 3 categories for where they lived. And this would be chi-squared test of independence because of this, the way this question was worded. Does one affect the other? So then I would call this chi-squared test of independence. Okay, consider this scenario in part C, but what if the students were asked the number of dates that they had gone on in the past month? So your students would be replying 5 dates, 6 dates, 0 dates, 8 dates, whatever. And what would you do with all those dates? You would be averaging them. So because this type of categorization is missing, then it changes it to quantitative data. And so you would be averaging, so this cannot be done with a chi-squared. All right. Next, 1992 poll, University of Montana classified respondents by gender and political party. So what are my variables? Gender and political party. What are the categories under gender? Male and female. What are the categories under party? Democrat, Republican, and Independent. So this ended up being asking if there was an association between gender and political party. So what's that? Chi-squared test of independence. All right. Next, we've got a community college. They want to know if the distribution of courses chosen, humanities, social sciences, or science, is different for residents and non-residents. So living status. Living status. So what are the variables? Okay, the courses chosen versus where they live, and how's this worded? Is it different, aka not the same? So I would call this chi-squared test of homogeneity. Brokerage firm wants to see what type of account, silver, gold, platinum, affects the type of trades, phone, by person, or on the internet. See this right here? How many variables? Account versus what?
3.
The type of trade. Okay, so there's two variables. There's two variables. Under the variable of account, how many categories are there? So get this straight. Variables are account. How many categories does account have? 3. Okay. So there's 3 categories here. And how many categories under the type of trading? 3 categories. Okay. Correct. And so I am wondering what affects it. Okay. So that's chi-squared test of independence.
I feel like any homogeneity test I'm just trying to do.
What?
Any homogeneity test I'm just
You
trying
see,
to
you like, yeah, you word it that way. That's easy for you. Some people actually prefer to do it the other way. Okay, so the last one ended up being numerical, but don't forget that these are the 4 things you will turn in with your quiz tomorrow.
I'll be back.
Your homework part 1, homework part 2, and the 2 warm-ups this week we've done.
So that one, how much size that one up?
And the 70 to 80 on the packet.